Welcome to Planet Nibiru. Up to recently, we have been posting sporadically and just posting some images and some spottings of second suns and things like that. But I think that the frequency of the earthquakes, the frequency of the strange weather patterns, and certainly the frequency of volcanoes recently, especially within the last, let's say, 10 years or so, has been off the charts. And the frequency of strange tides and things like that has come to a point where we should probably start keeping a much closer eye on what is actually going on in the world. We are, and this is June 15th, 2016, and today we had 32 earthquakes that were a 2.5 or above. That is a lot of earthquakes. If we look at earthquake frequency, in 1973, we recorded around 5,000 earthquakes. If we go all the way up to about 2006, or 2005, we had 30,000. 2006 looked like we had around maybe 28,000, and that leaves off the last 10 years, which this trend has continued to rise. Now, if we look at earthquake graphs, destructive earthquakes between magnitude 6 and 8. If we look at that, we haven't had very many of those destructive earthquakes between a magnitude 6 and 8, or even higher than an 8. Very often up until the year 2000. All of a sudden, in the year 2000, destructive earthquakes between the magnitude 6 and 8 skyrocketed. Recently, thank goodness, it looks like they dropped off a little bit in 2010, 2011. We'll have to see if we can find some more recent data, but just looking at this data here, we can tell that something obviously was going wrong between 2000 and 2011, with the number of destructive earthquakes between magnitude 6 and 8 skyrocketed. Here's a graph that goes up to 2014, and thank goodness it looks like we had a dip around between 2010 and 2011, and then we started to go back up. 2012, we peaked out, dropped back down around 2013, and of course we don't have data in this one for 2014 or beyond. But we will try and find some graphs that have some more recent data in them. I would love to see what has happened, like say between 2011 and 2016. I would like to see something up to date, but the most up to date thing that we have is the USGS, or the U.S. Geological Survey, and they have certain presets that are on here. The last 7 days, magnitude 2.5 or plus. Last 7 days, magnitude 4.5 plus. So let's take a look at that. In the last 7 days, we've had 81 earthquakes that were a 4.5 or better. That's pretty huge. In the last 30 days, that was the last 7 days. So in 7 days, we've had 81 earthquakes that were for 4.5 or better. Let's see what it comes out to in the past 30 days. In the past 30 days, we've had 361 earthquakes, magnitude 4.5 or better. So something is telling you, or something should be telling you, that something's up. So we are going to try and do a much better job of covering this issue, making sure that we are getting the data out there as much as possible. Could this have something to do with solar flares? I've watched a lot of YouTubers who believe that the solar flares that we're having right now, even though we are in a Maunder minimum, the solar flares still have an effect on our planet. But I don't believe that when you look at this number of quakes in 30 days, 361 earthquakes over 4.5. That doesn't equate with solar activity in the past 30 days. Solar activity has been pretty slow lately, so I really truly believe that this equates to an incoming system. And if you look again back from 1973 to 2006, and we know from 2006 it rises even further out to 2011, 2014. So from in the past, say 40 years, it has just hockey sticked. There's some more significant data down here that I think is important. We have a dates period, and they break it up into sections of almost 40 years, but 38 years. And then we have the number of earthquakes that are a magnitude 7 or above, basically 7. So they're saying a 6.99, which is basically a 7 or above. The first 38-year period, which is 1863 to 1900, we had 12. The next 38-year period, we had 53. The next 38-year period, 71, and the next 38-year period, we logged 164. We were supposed to go until 2014, but they ended it in 2011. So they stopped at 3 years early, but 3 years early we had 164. So they basically predicted right around better than 190 in total. So again, that is a hockey sticking chart that just shoots almost straight up when you look at the number of quakes, and what I would say are devastating quakes. 7.0 or better are devastating quakes. These are quakes that are massive and do massive damage. Some of the highest quakes on record are, your 9s, maybe even like a 9.2 or something like that, I think. Let's take a look here. Let's go back to Google and let's ask, what is the most devastating earthquake on record? The world's largest earthquake with an instrumentally documented magnitude occurred May 22nd, 1960, near Valdivia, southern Chile. It was a magnitude 9.5. So that is a massive earthquake. It's hard to imagine how massive a 9.5 earthquake is. And this is instrumentally documented. When we come back here to this page where they're talking about it is not beyond possibility that a massive earthquake magnitude of 10 or 10.1 on the Richter scale could be produced on the planet in extreme circumstances. And I think that an incoming solar system or an incoming planet would qualify as extreme circumstances. And then what they go on to say is this level of quake would damage the Earth's crust on a truly global scale, with the fault line likely to circle a large part of the planet. Can you imagine? Now, we had a 9.5 in 1960 in Valdivia, southern Chile. And I don't know what the fault line looked like. I don't let's see if I don't know if they have any pictures, or obviously it's probably not video or anything like that, but let's see. Obviously these homes were just devastated. I said the foreshocks were magnitude 7 and 7.9 the day before, and they caused significant damage. And of course, because they're basically 7s and 8s, I mean, these are huge earthquakes. These were the foreshocks for this 9.5, and this 9.5 just basically shook these houses to the ground. If a 10 is so devastating, that it would leave a fault line that would circle most of the globe. Can you imagine what this 9.5 did? And actually, they mention it right here on this page. The largest earthquake in recent history was a 9.5 in Chile in 1960. This did not result in the largest fatalities, however, because obviously I think the ones in San Francisco and some of, or maybe in Japan, because there are so many people living in such small areas, you can have a much smaller quake, but it will result in many more fatalities because there is a much denser population. So, yeah, it doesn't take a massive earthquake to do a lot of damage, and it doesn't take a massive earthquake to kill a lot of people. However, if we did have one of these massive quakes, and we're talking something like a mega quake that would be, a 10 or a 10.1 on the Richter scale, it would basically, it could cause devastation that no one has ever seen in recorded history. So that is pretty interesting. They have some notes down here about the end times. Speaking of the signs that will happen leading to his return to judge the people of earth at the end of the age, Jesus is quoted as saying, "In various places there will be famines and earthquakes. These things are the beginning of birth pangs." And he references Matthew 24, and that is a book of the Bible. Now, because birth pains begin small and then increase in intensity and frequency, this passage can be interpreted to mean that earthquakes, famines, caused primarily through the lack of rainfall in certain areas, will increase both in frequency and impact or strength prior to the second coming. Now, whether it's the second coming, whether it's another passing of the solar system or the planet of Nibiru, we don't know exactly what's causing this hockey stick like increase over the years, over the last certainly 100 years, but we know that it's happening. But these charts are amazing when you look at them, when you spend some time to actually look at what's going on in the world, what's going on with our planet, how these earthquakes are impacting our life and our livelihoods. There's been a recent, I would call it, phenomenon of quakes in places that don't usually have quakes, and that being like, say, Oklahoma. Oklahoma used to not really have almost any quakes, and now they have hundreds of quakes a month. So we have to ask ourselves, is this truly just like today it looks like they've had 3 or 4. Yeah, here we go. Oklahoma, Oklahoma. They've had in Oklahoma just today. So, what's going on with, why are we having all these earthquakes? And certainly 32 earthquakes of a 2.5 plus in one day is pretty alarming. So, when we look at some of the other things that are going on, beaches being eroded within a day, restaurants and beachfront businesses being eaten away by new surf lines. This is the type of damage that you would expect to see when you have massive earth change underway. Now, anyone that says that we are not experiencing earth change, is definitely fooling themselves. But is it man-made? I do not believe that man has the ability to cause the number of earthquakes to go up by magnitudes of order in the past, say 110, 115 years. I don't believe that that's possible. I don't believe that we are causing the earth changes that we're experiencing. Global warming, if they want to call it that, at best, hard to prove. Because we have experienced such a global cooling trend in the past, say 5 years, or for even 10 years. They're using data from 20 years ago to try and prove global warming. And sure, I do agree that there has been temperature changes that accompany these other earth changes. But I think that we have to take all of these earth changes into account when we're looking at what is really going on and why it is happening. The Hopi elders have a prophecy, and many other ancient tribal peoples have prophecies and have looked at the skies and said, Inuit elders from northern Alaska have looked at the skies and said, that the skies are not right. The stars have changed. They're not seeing the stars that they should be seeing right now. And these people have tracked the stars and used the stars for their hunts, for their livelihood, for their lives, for hundreds and thousands of years. So I don't think their word is to be taken lightly. These people live and die by the natural tools that they use to live by, that they live their lives by. So I think that maybe their word should be given a little bit more credence than we give it. So anyway, that's just some of my thoughts on what's going on in the world today. We're going to be taking a much closer look at a lot of the aspects of what's going on in future videos. We're going to be delving into a lot of different things, along with keeping a very, very close eye on the earthquakes, because again, I do believe that the earthquakes are a huge indicator of something, namely an outside force pulling on our planet and causing the continental these continental shelves to crush together or pull away from each other, and which causes these earthquakes as the pressure builds on these fault lines. It builds to a point where they can no longer take it, and then they snap, which causes an earthquake, sometimes causing things like tsunami, as we saw in 2004 with the 2004 tsunami that killed so many people in Indonesia and in that area of the Pacific. So with that said, in future videos we will be taking a look at some of these other earth changes that are happening, but for right now I just wanted to come on and give you an update, what we're planning on doing with the channel, and how we're going to be keeping an eye on certain things to hopefully get our fingers on the pulse of what's really happening, and if there is some type of incoming body that is causing this, any heads up that we can give each other, any information that we can share will be of extreme and supreme importance. And I think that these might be the perfect times for us to sit back and reflect on some of the things that we think are important in life, some of the things that we value, some of the skills that we have or don't have, and some of the skills that you might need if it comes to a point where we do have a 10.0 or a 10.1 type of earthquake that is a planetary wide, that causes planetary wide destruction. So that's all for now. This is Planet Nibiru signing off for the day, and we will see you soon.